Economics Explained has a video called Has Japan Mastered Economic Stagnation? And it's called How to Give Up. That sounds kind of funny.
Japan was once expected to become the largest economy in the world. For a while, the relatively small islands were within economic striking distance of the much larger and much more populous USA.
I've shown this before, but it's worth seeing. If you want to see how the 80s thought about Japan, you have to watch that Back to the Future scene. I think this is set in what, 2015. Okay, this is what they thought 2015 would be like.
Hey, Big M. How's it hanging, McFly?
Look at his tie. It's 2 ties with the rising sun on it.
Fujitsu-san, konnichiwa.
McFly, you are terminated.
Terminated? No, please, no, I cannot be fired. I'm
Crazy to put a "you're fired." Anyway, that's what they thought Japan would be like in the future, right?
The point is that the expectation for Japanese dominance permeated everything. Now, of course, that future never came. For most developed countries, real estate is the defining economic problem. Young people around the world have all but resigned themselves to the fact that they won't own their living space for the foreseeable future. In Japan, this is a foreign concept.
I mean, just to put some context to that, Japan had one of the largest real estate bubbles in human history. At one point, the land in and around the Imperial Palace of Japan was worth more than all of California. It had a massive explosion that led to what is now a 4-decade-long economic stagnation. So yeah, now they have this lower real estate prices, but it's not without costs. It's not like it wasn't like a brilliant idea they had. What if we just didn't treat housing like an investment? It's like this was forced on them.
And before anyone assumes that a Japanese citizen can just start buying everything up to create a massive amount of assets, Japan has actually done something to prevent that from spiraling out of control: the inheritance tax.
Inheritance taxes, based!
Now, it doesn't need to be an inheritance tax, but this example has helped to keep Japan relatively mobile, despite its stagnation.
No, it should be an inheritance tax. I'm extremely pro inheritance tax. It's a great method to keep entrenched familial dynasties from extending over generations and millennia. Just because your parents are brokies. Don't call my parents brokies, first of all. Can you explain why you are pro inheritance tax? I view taxation as a disincentive to given behavior, and it feels like it disincentivizes passing wealth on to children. I feel like this rain is going to get us wet. Yeah, that's the point. Yeah, dude, that's the point. That's the entire purpose. It's a good time to reset the game, so to speak. I've given the same speech a billion times, but I always say this, and I just want to get it across because I really believe it in my heart. If I invent Mr. Pibb and you invent Dr. Pepper, you made a better thing. You get more money than me. That's fine. That's fine. You made a better product or service. People want it more. You make more money. That's fine. But if my granddaughter has to be a butler for your granddaughter because of inherited wealth, that's fucked up. If she can't go to the same quality of education or can't get the same school or can't have the same opportunities just because her grandfather didn't make as good of a product, the fact that it gets passed on is insane. And since inheritance taxes in all these countries apply to millions of assets, it's like regular person putting the family home up. It's like 4 million plus. They just market it as like a death tax. It's so scary to try and scare average people into supporting something against their own interests. Inheritance taxes are based, dude. It's a perfect natural time to try and reset the game a little bit so that the average people can have a fair shot, even if their parents aren't rich. There already is so much inherited advantage. If your dad's a rich CEO, even if he can't pass you a ton of money directly, if it's taxed at 50% or whatever, or 70%, first of all, you're still getting millions. You're not hurting. But also, it's like the connections, the people he knows, the people he can introduce you to, the rooms you can get him for. You're already getting so much advantage. You don't have to always also get the millions in inherited wealth. It's like you're already gonna have a head start. It doesn't need to be maximized, yeah. What do you have against Bronny? I got nothing against Bronny, bro. I got nothing against Bronny James. My GOAT. He hasn't inherited a dime, dude. He got an NBA contract. Bro's a lethal threat on the Lakers. How would you deal with the problem that then, because the goal of a parent is to make the best life for their kid and have the most advantages in life? Wait, I'm sorry. What's your question? He's basically saying, how would you deal with parents not working as hard anymore because their goal of passing wealth to their kids is gone? You know what? If they step down, there's someone who wants wealth for wealth's sake who will step up. There's someone who just wants to be rich who's going to do it. I want to be rich but not work. Thoughts on that? Sounds base. You know what you should do is crypto. There would need to be a relatively high lower end cutoff to the inheritance tax. Otherwise, Americans would freak out over it. This already happened, bro. We had a higher inheritance tax. And then they did a whole campaign to call it the death tax. This happened. This is American political history. It's already happened. The debate is not whether or not Americans would freak out over it. The debate was whether it's a good idea. I think it's a good idea. I'm pro inheritance. And I'm trying to, I use the Mr. Pibb example to make it, I want to make it appealing to regular people. I want to explain like why I'm for it. Not because I heard it in a platform somewhere. It's because I thought about it and I'm like, damn, I think that would be based. I think that would help have a more equitable society while still rewarding people who create something cool. Will you change your mind when you become a father? Do I want to have a spoiled, lazy, rich kid who doesn't want to do anything with his or her life because they're hoping that I pass all the money to them? Yes, that is what I want. No, I'm not going to change my opinion. I think it'd be cool if a kid, I don't have enough money. I'm not changing anyone. I'm doing well, but it's not like I'm got a generational wealth where they don't have to work again. But yeah, by the way, does it like whether or not I pass down money, I'm going to pass down something more important to my children. The requirement they stream onto my Twitch channel. When I die, my child will have to stream on this channel every day and not miss Marketing Mondays either. Half the channel would go to the government. All right, well then Baron Trump can share my channel too. It'll be Baron Trump and my child co-streaming on my channel at my funeral.
The government has borrowed a lot to keep the economy at its current baseline in an effort to not fall behind. Though this hasn't caused any problems yet, they're truly entering uncharted territory as it's raising interest rates.
It is causing problems. It's causing problems right now. Listen, think about it like this. Let me try and explain this more simply. Imagine a bathtub and there's the drain right at the bottom. Okay, imagine wherever the water level is at, it's like the price level. So if the water level goes up, that's inflation. If the water level goes down, it's deflation. Imagine this drain is like cheaper goods from China, the growth of Chinese manufacturing, an aging population, economic stagnation, things that cause deflation, all right? Prices are going down. At the same time, here's the spigot. This is the Japanese government constantly nonstop money printing to buy their own debt. So for 3 decades, because this drain has been so active, because they've had the lucky, unique Japanese position of having natural deflation, they could afford to do this and everything kind of just stayed the same. It kind of just stayed stagnant. But as this drain closes, okay, or basically loses its usefulness, they're not getting the same level of natural deflation as they used to get. And they've turned this up. Every year they turn this spigot up. They are now finally starting to see, they've been begging for inflation. For decades, they were like, we have to get inflation. We're scared of deflation. We have to get inflation. Well, now they're finally getting it. And instead of changing course, they realize they can't. They can't turn this off. This is the only way the government debt works in Japan. So they're finally getting these problems and it's making their currency weaker and weaker and weaker. So this is where Japan is now. It's not like it just works forever. It's worked because of this drain. But we're in a different world now and they can't change this part of it. They pretend like they could, but they can't. This is the long-term consequences of basically monetizing your debt, which is what it's called when you print money to buy your own government bonds. It works for a while, but they're clearly starting to see pains about it. And obviously, they don't have social unrest the way other countries do. Japan is more organized, but people are getting upset there. People are getting mad at the weakening value of their currency, the ever increasing amount of tourists showing up to like with higher incomes. They're turning into like a tourist service economy. Doesn't America print money for their debt? It's called quantitative easing. We don't currently do it. We have done it, but we're not doing it right now. We'll probably do it again. Next downturn, we'll do it again. I talk to randos when I go to Japan, they aren't happy. Yeah, exactly. Listen, the unrest in Japan is building. People they don't respond to it as like viscerally and crazily as we do in America. They don't have the reactions we do. They're not as polarized, but they are upset. Things are seemingly in a bad direction there. They're not happy. This video sort of makes it out like they figured out this perfect thing to like easy flat growth. That's not really the case. They just took advantage of structural deflation to print as much as they want and prop everything up. But it's not a long-term perfect plan that does, you can't free lunch it forever. Hopefully that helps explain what's going on in Japan. I mean, it's fascinating because Japan is like I think the wisest thing that video said was Japan is the model or the example that other countries, Europe, America, everyone can look towards and see what's happening. The road we're headed down with larger and larger debt to GDPs. They bought their lunch by credit card, people think it's free lunch. That's a very simplified way of putting it, but yeah, I mean, sort of. It's like there is just no such thing as a free lunch, is all I'm saying. There's no zero consequence free money that you can just, except for crypto, yeah. Why can't the government just print more money and deflation? No, they can. That's what they did. That's what I just said. That's what I just said. The drain was the deflation. The spigot was the printing money. That's what I just said. That's what they just did. What if they hide the money and pretend they didn't print it? If you had an economy with $10 and 10 apples, and if you in secret print 10 more dollars and hide it and don't use it, then yeah, nothing happens. It's not like the mere act of printing is the problem. It's once you take those $10 and buy some apples with the government for the government or for whatever, introduce them into the economy, then all of a sudden, eventually that gets out into the world, gets into trade. You have $20 chasing the same 10 apples. The price of apples goes up. There's just more money chasing the same amount of actual real goods. The money's not real. It's just it's a measurement. I think some people think like printing money causes inflation because someone reads the news and goes, oh, they printed money, I better raise prices. That's not what happens. The government just introduces money into the economy, and because there's more dollars chasing the same amount of goods, prices naturally raise. Is UBI impossible then? No. People talk about UBI like UBI is impossible if you are printing the money for UBI. If you print a bunch of money and give it to people to buy stuff, that obviously won't work. Prices will raise. But if you're taxing people, if the money comes from taxes, it's closed loop. You just take somebody's money and give it to poor people. It's the same amount of money, same amount of goods. That's not inflation. But you have to fund UBI with taxes. You can't fund UBI with like, well, we're not going to tax anybody. We're just going to print it. What's stopping corporations raising prices with UBI? Corporations, listen, the whole concept of like greedflation is very silly. It's very silly because companies are always greedy. They're greedy all the time. They are always raising their prices to the maximum they can. They're always trying to do that. If they thought they could double prices tomorrow and get away with it, they would do it. The reason McDonald's does not double their prices right now is because they think you'll go somewhere else. The reason that they're trying to bring prices down right now is because they're losing customers. People are mad. They always raise it to the max that they can. So if there's no new money in the system, it's closed loop, and you give UBI to people, prices of some things will go up because there's things more people are buying. There's higher demand for certain things. But in general, the average price level won't rise the same amount of money. People will raise as much as they can. And if not, if there's all these poor people with money from UBI, there's a million new companies that are going to pop up to try and make things for this market. Right now, if you want to start a company in America, it better serve the rich people. You better make something that helps because they have all the money. But if you make it for poor people, they don't have any money to give. But if they had a UBI, there'd be a ton of competitors trying to capture this market because there's so much money to be had. You're assuming 100% logical actions? No, I'm not. No, I'm not. I'm assuming 100% normal human actions. What if you regulate prices at a federal level and charge penalties for selling at a higher rate? You are not the first person in history to think of this. It's called price controls. It's been tried quite a bit since Emperor Diocletian in the Roman year 4. It's been tried a lot, okay? Generally what it leads to is lack of supply. So you get empty shelves, and it leads to black markets where you have to buy outside the law. You're assuming free market though. Greedflation does happen with monopolistic companies. Again, calling it greedflation is where I have a problem with it. The companies are always greedy. The monopolistic ones can charge more because they have no competition. The other ones want to do the same thing, but they can't. It's not that one is greedier than the other. It's that they're all raising the price as much as they can. If you have no competition, if you're a monopoly, you can keep raising and raising prices. And as long as you have an essential good or service, no one can stop you. So the goal in that case is to do everything in our power as a government to break up that monopoly, to make it easier to start a business, do whatever you can to make more competition, to drive down costs for consumers. If monopolies are so bad, why is it such a high-selling board game? Bro, do you know the story of Monopoly, the board game? This woman invents it. It's called the Landlord's Game. She makes it as like, you know, a total critique. And then some dude steals it, sells it to Parker Brothers, and gets all the money. Calls it Monopoly.